who I am. Hi, I'm Meg. I'm the communication director at North Sound ACH, and really just here to say hello, welcome, and then pass off to our speakers. So before I'm so sorry. Before I do that, I would love to read our land acknowledgement. Um, we acknowledge we begin by acknowledging with humility that the land where we are today is the territory of the people of the Salish Sea. Their presence is imbued in the waterways, shorelines, valleys, and mountains of the traditional homelands of the Coast Salish people since time immemorial. And just a quick share about that land acknowledgement was actually worked on and written by staff and one of our board committees, our tribal alignment committee for North Sound ACH. And so we're just very thankful to have those folks, their relationship with us and to help us be able to acknowledge with honor. And so you all are here because we have some really amazing opportunities to get some technical assistance help. That's kind of the umbrella term. It's going to encompass a lot. And then also specifically, there is a funding opportunity, and we'll hear directly about that as well. I'll first introduce Emily and Masha. Thank you. From OPHI, Oregon Public Health Institute. They are the group that is assisting our network, our partners, our North Sound folks, with the technical assistance for this really great opportunity around environmental justice, environmental public health work. There's just a lot of opportunity. So I will pass it to you folks.
Hi, everybody. I'm Emily Hankey. I'm the executive director at OPHI, which stands for Oregon Public Health Institute. Thank you for welcoming us into your Washingtonian space today. OPHI is excited to be here. We work in Oregon, but we also work in the Pacific Northwest overall. And I have been privileged to do some work directly with North Sound ACH several years ago. So I am familiar with the organization and knew you all would be exactly the right people for us to talk to about how we can help communities in the Northwest region of Washington State advance their environmental justice and environmental health goals. I'm going to pass it off to my colleague, Masha, who has some slides ready for us, and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Masha Cole, she, her, hers pronouns. Really happy to be here, and thank you for joining at 11 a.m. on such a gray morning here in Portland metro area. Hopefully our slides will cheer you up a little bit with the new opportunities. Okay, I'm going to start in a second. Okay, so we're going to talk today about Northwest Environmental Justice Center and the EPA Thriving Communities Technical Assistance Center, which all of these terms are going to be explained. A quick welcome again. We already introduced ourselves. We're going to have two presentations today after Emily and I have finished. We'll invite Jason from Philanthropy Northwest to talk about a great funding opportunity for you all that you're probably all excited in more details. The slides are going to be distributed after this presentation. I will also have my contact information at the end of the slides. And if you have any questions, feel free to send them on the chat. We'll try to answer them after the presentation is over in the chat, or if we're not going to have time, I will follow up and try to answer those later with maybe slides when they will be distributed. So, what is all of this? Environmental Justice Thriving Communities Technical Assistance Centers, which in short we're going to call EJ Tic Tacs because it's a mouthful of words. But these centers basically were developed by EPA, which is U.S. Protection Agency, in conjunction with Department of Energy, in response for community needs in environmental justice field. The Tic Tacs are EPA-funded centers that are designed to support community-based organization, local government, and tribes in accessing and managing environmental justice grant funding and building their capacity. There are a lot, I think, regional centers and 3 national centers. So we are representing Northwest Environmental Justice Center, which is one of 2 Tic Tacs in Region 10, which is Alaska, Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and tribes in the region. We also have the National Center to support the National Indian Health Board and 2 other national center that have like support for the tribes. So as a center, we work to accomplish helping the communities in accessing environmental and energy justice funding through the technical assistance. And this is the hardest slide, so please hold on a little bit longer. It's going to be simplified in a couple of more slides. So in short, right, we serve Alaska, Washington, Oregon, and Idaho, and all the tribes that reside there. Who can benefit from this? All the communities with environmental justice concerns. So think creatively of that. And what we can do is provide training, capacity building, different capacity building, assistance with funding opportunities, help with grant proposals, community engagement, and a lot of other things. How long can you ask us for help or for support? Within 5 years, from 2023 to 2028, fingers crossed, it's going to go through 2028. And the greatest news, it's free for any of communities or organization to reach out for support. So there's going to be no hidden fees, no subscriptions, no memberships. So please remember that that's the government allocated these funds for us to support you. So please feel free to reach out. Our mission as a center is to provide the technical assistance, again, supporting environmental and energy justice issues and work towards thriving futures in Alaska, Idaho, Oregon, and Washington. Our center is led collaboratively by co-directors from PSU Institute for Tribal Government and Wolama Partnership. They work together the leadership model with a lot of great partners across 4 states, which is consists from a diverse network of outreach coordinators, community organizers, nonprofit institutions, and all of this unique experience is there to support communities and organizations in all the different areas. So what can we actually do, right? Or what we can actually offer? So we have a great resource library that I actually used myself quite a bit. It's great. So highly recommend. I will leave a link to just everybody to review. Then we have some cohort style learning, leadership development at the small groups of environmental justice leaders or people who are passionate about EJ issues. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about it later. We also provide ethical storytelling and advocacy, and the big chunk is technical assistance. So now we're going to go one by one and just review all of them really quickly. So resource library, self-explanatory, very neatly organized. You can subscribe for the monthly newsletter to see what else is coming up or if there is something interesting and helpful for you or for your organization. The cohort learning is again free leadership development opportunities on different topics where each cohort includes like 10 to 20 participants, and they focused on data justice, policy navigation, environmental justice leadership. Very cool stuff if you're interested in any of those. And it helps with network and just knowing who else is doing a great work around Region 10. Advocacy and storytelling. It's important for organization to provide a powerful stories about their work. I feel like a lot of organizations lack um, that ability and that skill because they are expected to do everything, and it's usually one person or two people doing everything, and it's kind of hard, to be honest. So this is a great resource and opportunity to tell about your work, to get some help with actually getting this information to the public, to the funders, and framing it that your work is not forgotten and that, you know, people are aware of what's happening around them. And you celebrate the victories with the community and not just your little mighty group or a big mighty group. I don't know. So great resource also. Technical assistant, this is a big chunk of things that we do. It's a community-driven services. We provide different assistance and technical assistance. It's not just let's edit your Word documents or your slides. It's I'll show some examples, but it's a broad umbrella term for providing any assistance that you can think of or we can think of to support your work. And it might be a very small, like 3-hour help, or it can be, let's do a policy analysis and a construction project for 160 hours. So it can be a lot of things. Some of the examples are here on the screen. It's funding discovery, application readiness, where we can review your application for the grant, help you frame it better, work with you to adjust it, to make it stronger. Regional network, meeting facilitation, strategic planning, research, organizational capacity building, meeting facilitation. Emily, is there anything else you would like to add as an example of technical assistant? Because Emily is a creative director also on our team who asks everybody thinks creatively, and so she's going to force you to do that a little bit as well.
I'll start with something non-creative. But one of the things I love about the TIC-TACs and the Northwest Environmental Justice Center specifically is that it very much is technical assistance designed to be responsive to the needs of communities. So you might be a single person who wants to start a group in your community, and we can talk with you about how to do that. You might be a board that needs meeting facilitation or strategic planning. We can help you with that. You might be a group that needs help with researching your issue in order to apply for a grant or funding opportunity that requires more evidence of need. We can help you with that. You might need really technical stuff. Maybe you are really far along in your environmental justice project, and the next big step for you is you need help figuring out how much it would cost to do blueprints for your water infrastructure project. Ask us about that too. If we go back to that list of partners, not that we need to right now, you will see that there is a large list of organizations that do different sorts of consulting work, ranging from community engagement and advocacy all the way to engineering. So the point is, there's nothing that's really out of bounds. As long as you're advancing environmental justice in your community or building the capacity to do that, we would like to help you. We'd like to chat with you. Some of my favorite TAs to do are with fellow leaders of small equity-focused organizations who aren't really sure that they should be able to qualify as an environmental justice group. I can probably talk you into it if you're here. So, and that's maybe another thing is a lot of folks on this call will be from groups that work on health or related fields. It is so important that we in public health equity, learn how to tell our story to different audiences. right? Whether that's a funder or a community group or the media, whatever. We want to help you with that too, because we all know that environmental justice and energy justice have impacts on social determinants of health, which means they have impacts on health and health equity. But we don't always message things correctly in our field. I think we can all agree on that after COVID. It's something that we would love to help with. It's something that our organization has worked on for a very long time. And there are also communications professionals on the TA team. So I'll just add that. We'd love to hear from you. You don't have to know exactly what you want when you file a request. This is not a menu. You can describe your needs to us and we can talk with you about how we can help meet those. Thanks, Masha.
Yeah, thank you, Emily. And if you're interested again in requesting technical assistance, there is a short form that Emily just mentioned. I will put a link in the chat in a second. It's 10 minutes, 15 minutes to complete with some basic information and just describing what do you need support with. And it just helps to send you to the right partner, basically, with the right expertise. That's why it's going to ask you for a specific project issue or area of interest. And here's my information that I'm also going to post in the chat. Here's an information how to get to Northwest Environmental Justice Center. But this is pretty much it. If anybody have any questions, we're happy to address those. And if there's no questions, or if there are going to be some questions later, that's totally fine. Here's my email. Feel free to chat me at any point if you're like, oh, finally thought about something and have a question. So no pressure right now. And Meg, we are done. I would be happy to give a tour to Jason to talk about their amazing grant that we are all very excited about. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Masha and Emily. I'm sorry, Emily, I remembered that I just met you before. I said something about meeting you virtually, and I just remembered that I had met you before. So excuse me on that one. Donito koho, chante washte nape chuzapalo, Lakota amachiapi, Jason Pretty Boy, wasichu amachiapi, Jason Pretty Boy. I am Jason Pretty Boy. I'm a program officer with the Thriving Communities program at Philanthropy Northwest. And I was asked to come speak to you a little bit about our funding opportunity that we have been, it's a great opportunity that we've been given here in the Pacific Northwest, or Region 10 as we know it. It's EPA's Region 10, which includes Alaska, Washington, Oregon, and Idaho. I am actually dropping right now into the chat our website. You can go here and basically see what we're doing, how we're doing it. We have our call for applications. We are awarding somewhere in the neighborhood of approximately $40 million over the next 3 years. We just closed round one of our tier 3 grants, which are $350,000 grants directed at organizations, nonprofit organizations, schools, anybody that's eligible, tribal organizations, for any projects that they have that are already kind of in motion, that are already happening. This isn't a I'm going to get lost here for a second because I've really been thinking about how this works. So there are 3 tiers in this grant. There's tier 3, which is the $350,000 grant. Tier 2, which is, I believe, $250,000, and tier 1, which are $150,000 grants. They are not designed to be a step grant. So you can't apply for tier 1 and then get tier 2 and then get tier 3. We started with tier 3 because they have the longest time span. 2 years is what they are on average to get done. Since this is a 3-year program, we tried to get those out as quickly as possible so people could get going on the projects that they want to have funded. Really quickly, who is eligible? Tribal nations, nonprofit organizations, local governments, higher educational institutes, We allow as well fiscal sponsors if there are organizations that maybe you haven't quite got your 501c3 or 501c status yet. You can use a fiscal sponsor who is ineligible, individuals, for-profit businesses, and state governments. But there's a caveat that with local governments are eligible to apply for this. So municipalities, counties, I believe, fall underneath that as well. So if there's something that you want done in your county, you should probably apply for this as well. Again, there are three types. We call them development, planning, and assessment. The development, basically partnership building, coordination with community members, public outreach, education, projects that spur community involvement. That's really what we're looking for under the development type 3 grant. The planning type 2 could be environmental sampling, testing, and monitoring, qualitative and quantitative research. And then the type 1 assessments are kind of if you need like blueprints or schematics, public outreach to the community, education, environmental education, things like that. There are 3 program officers. Myself, I have Idaho and Washington underneath my bailiwick, though we kind of fall underneath the idea that there are no borders within Region 10. So we kind of, we will operate wherever we need to be. Jackie Braden, who is based in Alaska, she is technically Alaska and Oregon's program manager. And then Melissa Kep, who is our tribal program manager, and she's based out of Rainier, Washington. So the 3 of us, we really just take over all of the Pacific Northwest, operate within that. This is from the Biden-Harris administration's Inflation Reduction Act. We were tasked with administering this grant by the EPA. And like I said before, it's about a 3-year program. Approximately $40 million is what we will be putting out. I dropped the website in there, and basically it has everything you need to do to get started, including our contact information. There is one other aspect of this that I forgot to mention as well with the grant types. There will be one more type coming out, but it'll be a non-compete grant for $75,000. We'll know a little bit more about these later into the spring. But essentially, these will be for capacity-strapped organizations that maybe don't have the capacity to, go after a type 1 or a type 2 grant or a type 3 grant, but are still trying to do that work. We actually have a number of webinars that are on this site as well, explaining about our Flux portal, explaining about the grant itself, explaining how to build a budget, how to build a work plan. In fact, after this meeting, I'll be jumping to 2 updated webinars that we are putting together on Flux portal, on work plan and EJ screen. Because the EPA's EJ screen is a big part of this grant as well, and the FAR scores. I don't really have anything other than that, because really it is self-explanatory when it comes down to it. When you get on our website, we've tried to make this simple. We have streamlined the application to be a lot simpler than what would normally come from a federal grant application. We use the Flux portal. It is fairly user intuitive. So I don't have anything else, Emily or Masha, but I am open for questions. If you have any questions, I am happy to try to answer them.
That was great. Thank you, Jason. I'll just add, Jason mentioned this is EPA money. This is Inflation Reduction Act money. And it is also a really unique opportunity that we should not expect to come again in the next however many years. this is such a fantastic opportunity to get a meaningful investment in your organization to advance your work at a time when it's really, really important. And I would say, as an organization, I've been with my organization for a long time, for 10 years. And I know that it can sound pretty intimidating to accept or think about accepting federal funds. And that is one of the ways that we want to help you at the Technical Assistance Center. So in addition to all this stuff about applying for the money, let's talk about how we can help you stay in compliance with your grant, right? Are you ready to receive this money? What are your fiscal policies like? Does your board understand what you're doing when you're taking on a federal grant? Because although it is passed through Philanthropy Northwest, it's going to come with the terms and conditions that the feds set out because it's public money, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think we can be a good confidence boost for you and give you I think we could give you a solid reality check on whether or not you're able to receive that money, or, what it would take to get you ready. So in addition to how do I apply for this? Can you review my blueprints? You can also talk to OPHI's Deputy Director of Finance and Ops and say, do you have a fiscal manual I could, borrow and use as a template or something like that? We would love to help you with that stuff. We'd love to tell you, are you in good shape with your tracking of separate expenses and things like that? These are real questions. And, one of my goals for participating as OPHI in this TICTAC is that we help reduce the barriers and confidence that people feel, but also we help you understand and mitigate your compliance risks. Because the last thing we need is communities doing the good work to feel like they are really vulnerable when they are trying to implement a federal grant in compliance with the feds. So let us talk about that. We would love to chat with you about that. Submit that TA form. Hey, I'm a little worried. Boom, 3-hour TA. We're there for you. We can help you out. And go from there. Again, it doesn't have to be a fully formulated thought, but we have plenty of people on our team who have administered federal money before, and we would love to chat with you about how you can make it work. And maybe, Jason said, maybe there's a fiscal sponsorship relationship out there that would be a good fit for you to do that, right? Like that's a really good reason to use a fiscal sponsor is you can hitch your card to somebody who has a federal track record, who knows how to administer federal money. Plenty of ways that we can brainstorm and kind of scheme with you about how to do this in a way that advances your goals, mitigates your risk, makes your board comfortable, makes your staff comfortable, whatever. So I just really would encourage people to not get hung up on that stuff.
I don't know about anybody else, but Jason, we're not, we can hear you, but it's very quiet.
Our computers go weird on us sometimes. So sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Are you hearing me now?
Yep.
Yeah. So I just wanted to jump off that and say, while we are program officers and people think we have all the answers, we actually don't. That's a, trade secret there. But once you've looked at our application, then I would honestly tell you to go right back to the TikToks, go back to Emily and Masha, and because they're going to help you understand what you actually need. Once you read it and see through it and you see what you think you might need, take it back to them. They're going to help you so much more than we as program officers can. Because at the end of the day, I can judge your completeness of your application. I can't judge your competitiveness, but the TikToks can. So keep that in mind. Once you look through it, you're going to see, oh yeah, maybe I do need to go back. I would go back. I really would. Would be the first place that I would stop. But even before you send us an email asking a question, send it to them, please. Because they have understanding and a knowledge that they are willing to share and give to you free of charge as well. So, take advantage, please.
And also we'll say, hey, I read your application and I also happen to know about this other funding opportunity. And it seems like a really good, easy fit. You should maybe submit it. Yeah.
Dan, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
I have a question for all three, maybe one of the three may be able to answer. So I work with a nonprofit that's currently a 501c19. veterans organization. We haven't got our 501(c)(3) yet, and we provide case management to help connect veterans, first responders, and their families to resources, which is sometimes hard to do if you're not stable. And we also build a network, a partnership to increase mental health access and do peer support. Would our mission and our current status fit into this grant? Thank you.
I heard you say grant at the end. So Dan, I just want to check, are you asking Jason about the funding opportunity only, or would you like us to respond in the technical assistance vein as well?
Yeah, I think it fits in both your lanes. The experts on overall funding and this grant in particular.
I'll start if that's okay. I would like to hear more from you about what you are doing in the fields of environmental justice. And do check out the website we put on there. One of the tabs in our page is, what is environmental justice? We, as a public health organization, a health equity organization, think very broadly about what environmental justice is. It can be, it can be like your classic environmental health stuff. Like, we need to get the, lead paint out of our windows in our child cares. 2, we need safe, healthy access to green space for our community's traditional spiritual practices, because we know that's connected to health. Or we have a interest in getting into this area that our community has identified as a need, but we don't really know how to do that. We don't know how to get organized for that, et cetera. But we know that if we had the capacity here, we could do something like that. So I would say a technical assistance request that could come from you is like, let's just have a conversation to help me identify what our group is doing that could be related to EJ. Another example, Dan, I don't know the specifics of your group and the folks who are in it, but like one that comes up a lot in energy justice is, how do we ensure like that people who use medical equipment that requires electricity have what they need to stay alive during a natural disaster, right? Or just to get around, like, how do I make sure people have access to power for their chairs, right? Things like that come up a lot when we talk about EJ with our disability community friends. So all of that to say is, I don't have a perfect answer to your question, except that I hope that you will hear me asking you to submit a TA request so we can talk more about that.
Thanks.
I will add that as long as you're a nonprofit, that's what they say. The C19 might throw some wrenches into this, but if you get a hold of Emily, they might be able to find a workaround for you for that. And I would also echo what she said about what are you doing for environmental justice. And also, if your organization is in a rural area, it actually comes across as a better opportunity for thriving communities, because thriving communities is generally targeted towards more rural areas. You will have to do some work on the EJ screen, which shows rural areas first and foremost. That's kind of the target area. And then the FAR score, which is a frontier and rural organization or rural area score. So if you score fairly high on those, and then working, with the Tic Tacs, you might be able to put together a fairly good application. And I will say that this grant is designed with a fairly wide net, because we've really taken the stance that environmental justice is kind of an everything topic. It touches everything. It's kind of like where the sun shines, it touches. So work with your Tic Tacs, work with Emily and Masha, and come up with something. I think, you probably would stand as good a chance as anybody, especially if you got that help. There was a question in there earlier about part of the collaborative network. If you're talking about the grant, no, you don't have to be a part of any collaborative networks. You just have to be a 501(c)(3) and eligible to actually write for the grant. So.
Yeah, I'll just add some context really quick, Jason. So the network there that Morgan was referring to is because we at Northtown ACH, we have a collaborative action network. And so the same thing as what you said. You absolutely do not need to be officially a part of our or our shared network, right? This is an opportunity that's you all have the criteria. It's not an ACH anything like that. We're just really happy to be able to spread the word and help our partners get this additional assistance.
And we would love you to share it with others in your own networks. So please don't feel like there's some sort of qualification, because there's not.
Yeah, please share this. We need more people applying. If you have people in Oregon and Idaho, please share it. Those seem to be our lacking areas right now. That will change, but yeah.
Any other questions? I can't see anybody's faces, but I'm sure you're just jumping out of your chairs with excitement right now. I hope so. Oh, here we go. Mike has a question in the chat. Any of you talk about how food insecurity might fit into your work?
So this is something we have actually been kind of talking about amongst our program officers. It doesn't directly fit, but it might. And this is where you would go to your Tic Tacs and go to Emily, and then they would say, let's talk it over. So again, when I said wide net, that's what I really mean. I mean, and I'm taking off my program officer hat just for a second to say, if you think it will fit, it might.
And again, it really depends what you're doing. So like, just to illustrate that, you are a meal delivery service taking medically tailored meals to homebound seniors. That in and of itself, probably not. You are maybe, on the other hand, a organization practicing regenerative agriculture to provide culturally specific foods to seniors from your community. Probably. So again, that's what Jason means. It's really about exactly what you're doing. And maybe in talking with us, you'll decide to change what you're doing a little bit. Let's chat.
I will say that we have seen some applications dealing with food. One coming from the standpoint of changing out their fleet of vehicles to make them more environmentally friendly. So again, go chat. That's the best advice.
Right. That's a good question, actually, Jason. Are there any requirements around or things that are allowed, not allowed on capital projects?
Yes. So basically, you're going to adhere to the EPA's, the federal government's requirements. So anything that isn't allowed through this grant. But there is one that we've actually kind of just heard about. In the past, federal money was not allowed to buy food, and it still isn't. But you can actually work it into the work plan and now buy food with this grant. Specifically, if you are like hosting an event and you need to buy, and this is good for those of you that have been around federal money, and it's a muffin, you can actually buy a muffin again. So, as long as you don't put one muffin for $10,000, you're fine. But you have to work it into your work plan. And that's what we'll work with you. And that's what the Tic Tacs can work with you as well. So off the top of my head, I don't have a list for you of things that, are ineligible. But if you go to the website, there is in our FAQs.
Great, thank you. Muffins for everyone. Morgan asks, can I put my contact info in here? I'm going to say, can we put Masha's contact info just because on the whole, I am overwhelmed with email. But Masha and I talk every day. So let's do that. And Masha is also our lead on this project. Perfect. Thank you, Morgan.
And you can find our contact info on that website I shared with you. It's at the bottom. You can also schedule meetings with us one-on-one through Zoom. I do need to bounce. We are, like I said, we're doing webinars today, and I have to get prepared for our next webinar. So thank you so much for the invite. Thank you so much for talking and letting me rant all over the place about things. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. And if you have a plan, talk with Emily and Masha. It sounds like they will help you fulfill that plan and get it before us. So thank you again so much.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any, we have some time here, and so if you need to noodle on this, thank you so much for coming. We'll be sending out, I think probably the recording for sure, the slides, but we can also use this time to brainstorm. Does anybody have, hey, would this idea work? Or, um,
And it
maybe
doesn't have to be in the context of the Thriving Communities grant that we just heard about. That's just one critical opportunity that is open now that we want you to know about.
Yeah.
There are other things too. There are other grants available from philanthropy, oftentimes state departments of ecology, or organizations that are, organizations, local governments that are funding things like energy or environmental related work. So have an open mind. It could be that you want to go after a $25,000 or $5,000 grant locally. That's fair game too.
Yeah. And maybe some of you are curious about who else is in the room. So feel free to put your contact info or at least your organization, and maybe that'll spark some, oh, maybe I could work with so and so. I mean, we of course Collaborative Action Network. We love when folks pair up more brains, more resources. Yeah.
Hey team, this is Tom Pierce with the Schedule YMCA. And maybe you'll direct me to make a request through your portal. But we're looking for some final funding for a youth shelter that we're rebuilding. And we've got a number of irons in the fire, if you will, in terms of helping close that gap, but we haven't crossed that finish line yet. So looking for some guidance on those opportunities that we may not be aware of.
Is there a climate, energy efficiency, environmental justice angle to your plans?
No, other than it being, LEED certified.
Other than it being what? I'm sorry.
A LEED certified building.
Okay. I would encourage you to submit a request if you would like to seek assistance from the Technical Assistance Center. We do have to know how your work is advancing environmental justice. If it is not advancing environmental justice, energy justice, when I say energy justice, like I bring that up because a lot of times when we think about building projects, right, we can think about things like energy efficiency, and that also applies, by the way, to thinking about retrofitting existing spaces.
Yeah, no, I understand. I thought your question to the group was more broad beyond just the topic of today.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thanks. Sorry.
Well, we are having our convening coming up, so hopefully we will see most of you there. That's also a great opportunity to meet each other, collaborate. Yeah, maybe beyond just this environmental justice, energy justice. So yeah, I hear you, Tom, and hopefully the network events can continue to help. Yeah, bring folks together.
Okay, thanks.
I just have a quick comment. I just want to say that I appreciate you guys being here, and it looks pretty intimidating when you first look at what the categories are because it looks like very scientific all the way to, like youth environmental justice. So thank you for being here and explaining kind of more what this is, because for us, we're a very small organization. We really have to prioritize our grant making in our, our focus for the year. And I'm looking forward to meeting with you guys and getting some assistance on the idea that we have for this. So thank you for bringing this information to us.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. I have walked through the application myself, and I also have read a lot of the background materials from EPA that resulted in these grant making centers. And so I recognize, Carol, when I read the website, that language comes directly from EPA about about how they have designed what I believe was previously their small grants opportunity, that they have basically now kind of subbed out, right, to Philanthropy Northwest and the other grant making centers around the country. So Philanthropy Northwest uses that language, but has a much wider definition of what can be included. You'll also see on their application when they ask you to use EJ Screen to document the environmental justice need of your community. The next question is, do you feel like this represents the need of your community? Why or why not? So you get the opportunity to say, this doesn't account for the fact at all that, whatever, that our environmental justice issue is not one that is bound by a census tract or other jurisdiction, or that it crosses a state border, right? We have that all the time. Masha's in Vancouver, I'm in Oregon. Like, these are not issues that, stop at borders. And sometimes when we use these geographic tools, it doesn't accurately represent what we're talking about. But I just want to say that, because if you feel like your EJ screen comes up and doesn't demonstrate the kind of need that from your experience, whether data or anecdotal, or because you are a member of the community that you're advocating for, don't let it stop you. Put it in the box, the next one, and say, well, actually, no. And again, we can talk about that too.
Do you guys know who the other organizations are that have been contracted to sub these funds out?
Not off the top of my head, but it's
Okay.
all on the EPA website.
Okay, because it looks a lot like a grant that we submitted to Latino Community Fund.
Hmm.
And I don't know if that's a conflict or if it's fine.
I don't believe that is one of the funding organizations here.
Okay.
But again, you can check the Thriving Communities Grant Making Program website, and it'll tell you who all the regional grant makers are, as well as a couple national grant makers.
Okay. And if it is that a problem or not?
I expect that you will not be allowed to seek two identical grants from two centers.
Okay.
But we can also double check, right? Like, if you will just like email me or something, I can help like double check it and confirm things, because yeah.
Yeah, I think I might do that because I'm pretty sure, I think it might be. Where is your email, Masha? Oh, there it is.
I'll post it again.
I found it.
Looks like someone has their hand raised.
I can't tell if that's me or not.
Yes, Nicole.
Okay, great. Hi, Nicole Willis from North Sound ACH. I thought, Meg, it might be helpful to share that one of the strategies that we have as an organization for this is to also apply for technical assistance to work with Masha and Emily to actually help, kind of like, here's this idea, which is potentially to look at a community of practice for environmental justice for the Collaborative Action Network. So I share that because that just might be, for those who are on the call now or listening to the recording later, we're trying to explore how to stay connected to this. And so there could be absolutely fine if people want to work directly with Emily and Masha, or go, right to the Philanthropy Northwest option. And you can also join at some point. We're going to be talking about this opportunity as a community of practice. So I just wanted to just a little plug for that, because we're super excited about this opportunity and we want to learn more. And we've got some ideas that, there's some organizations we know right now that are looking at some environmental impact things. So I thought I'd just mention that, and that we'll continue to update. Meg, I'm envisioning something like our network newsletter as we kind of progress in our conversations around that.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, I had a lot of fun today. So thank you, everybody.